Hello there, dear YouTubers. My name is King1993, and today I'll be talking about which type of weapon, character set, and elf set you should be using on which type of characters. And today's character will be called the Kiana Kaslana. So, without further ado, let's get started. Okay, now today's character, as I've said, is the Kiana Kaslana character. Now, before starting, do understand that there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There are total 5 Kiana Kaslana characters who are basically a physical damage dealing. Okay, and only one of them is a fire damage dealing character. Now, in case if you're wondering, then which one of them are the best and which one of them is the least best, let's start with White Comet. At the beginning you will get her for free, but that is basically it. Afterwards, at the end game, okay, end game is basically like at part of the game where you are mostly higher rank in your captain level, you will see that this character will not be that much useful at all. Okay, now second comes this Valkyrie Ranger. At the beginning part she will be a very strong character as a DPS character, that is, but afterwards in the game you will be using her as mostly as a support. Okay, now this one is basically a character who will only do support type of things. So if you're interested in what type of support she does, well, let me tell you about it. Okay, first of all, let's talk about her passive. So passive, basically when you were to put her in the first position, leadership position, then what will happen is she will give you 32% of more elemental damage. Okay, and she will take less, your characters, your other teams or whatever you are call them, will take 26% less elemental damage. So that is one thing. Another thing is when you use this divine prayer ultimate. Okay, sorry, not ultimate, you just use her randomly, then what will happen is when she is on the standby, okay, basically is speaking not on the field, rather on the slots, but not fighting the enemies. So the enemies will get a certain amount of percentage. Okay, at a certain point the enemies will receive a certain lightning damage, and afterwards it will cause impair to the enemies, and the enemies will take 8 the enemy's defense will be lower by 80% for 6 seconds. So obviously in that regards, divine prayer is basically a character that you want to use her in the first slot in order to make sure that you can get the maximum amount of support, okay, out of this one. And always remember, this one is more of a support character. And in case if you're wondering, okay, how can I understand which type of help I'm gonna get from her, then there is this another method, and this is basically you click on this area, see impair. Okay, how much impair she does about 80% of impair. Okay, so in that regard she is a good support character. Okay, now let's talk about this Night Moonbeam. Now Night Moonbeam is similarly to these two characters, is gonna be very useful at the beginning part of your game, and afterwards you might want to use her for support. Okay, because of our time fracture abilities. Now this one is called Harsher of the Void. Now Harsher of the Void is basically the first Harsher character which was introduced in the game. She works a bit differently when compared to other characters. Now in case if you are wondering how much good she is, well, since I'm not a well uh, user, okay, I had to rely on some other external method to actually get the info. Now one of those infos is basically this, that is tier list. This is a DPS damage per second tier list, and in the tier list you can probably see that this Kiana Kaslana, which is called Hearts of the Void, is a tier. So if you want to get a good quality amount of damage out of your Kiana Kaslana character, especially physical damage, then definitely this one is a good option. Okay, now this is the final Kiana Kaslana character at the moment in 5.3. Okay, this one is called Harsher of Flamintion, and the thing about Harsher of Flamintion is a lot of them. Okay, now one of them is basically hard DPS, when you were to consider her DPS, one of them is she is the top tier. Okay, there is no other character in the game who are as strong as she is. Okay, in the fire damage dealing. This is point number one. Now point number two is, if you were to put her in the first slot, similarly to this one, she will provide elemental damage dealing. Okay, let me show you. Here it is. So at the moment, the S rank only, she is able to provide 34% of more bonus elemental damage. And once she go to even higher ground, okay, let's say double S or triple S rank, okay, this is gonna increase up to maybe 46%, or maybe, yeah, 46% of more bonus elemental damage. So obviously in that regard, let's say if this was a good quality damage dealer, or sorry, support character, then this one is basically like she is a support character her own self, and also a DPS character. Okay. Okay, now let's talk about the weapons. Now let's go to this weapon section and select the pistols. Now there are 1 2 3 4 4 6-star weapons, and there are some other 5-star weapons which I'm gonna talk eventually. Okay, first of all, let's start with this positron blaster. This weapon was especially made for Night Moonbeam. Now even though it is written here it does paralyze, okay, it is not the only thing that it does. This is, even though it looks like an electric type of damage dealing weapon, this is a physical damage dealing weapon. So if you want to use a lot of physical damage on your enemies, then I highly suggest that you use this positron blaster. This is point number one. And point number two is Night Moonbeam is especially use this in such a way that it will benefit her than any other characters. Okay, now let's talk about this Tranquil Rhapsody. Now this belongs to some other character, and that character is called Six Serenade. So which is why I'm not gonna talk about this, because none of the Kiana Kaslana characters is actually capable of using this. Okay. Now let's talk about this Domain of the Void. Now Domain of the Void was called as Keys of the Void. Okay. So Keys of the Void is a 5-star, and then it will turn into a 6-star weapon. Okay. Now this one is especially used on Hearts of the Void, because Hearts of the Void is the only character that can fully take advantage of this. No other character can take full advantage of this. That is the only problem, which is why even if you do get this, it is not gonna be the best replacement weapon for other of the physical Kiana Kaslana characters. Okay, as you can probably see, it is best for Hearts of the Void. Now let's talk about this Domain of Incandescence. Now this Domain of Incandescence is the best one for Hearts of Flamintion. There is no doubt about it. No other character in the game can actually take full advantage of this except Hearts of Flamintion. Okay, so this is basically the 6-star category weapon. Now let's talk about some other weapons which are basically a 5-star weapon, and you can also take advantage of them. Okay, for example, there is this one which is called Arc Ceratus. Sorry. So this Arc Ceratus is a weapon that will lower the enemy defense by 40% for 12 seconds. That is a lot. Okay, and in case if you're wondering, okay, then who does this weapon belongs to? It belongs to Void Drifter. Okay, this one is called Void Drifter. Even though it is written here Valkyrie Ranger transform into a Void Drifter. Okay, so as I have said, that Void Drifter at the beginning part is gonna be a DPS character, but afterwards in the end game part she will more of a support character. This is point number one. Now another weapon is called Twins of Eden. Now Twins of Eden is almost like Arc Ceratus, except this one does more damage, okay, to the enemy by lowering their defense by 65%. So if you were to use this Arc Ceratus, then the maximum amount of damage defense lowering will happen is 40%, and for this one it will be about 65%. Okay, so obviously in that regards this weapon is actually better than this. And there is another one which is called Fengguan Pinions. Now this Fengguan Pinions seems to be a secondary weapon for a previous type. Okay, what do I mean by that? Let me show you. So there is this thing called Thunder Kikaku. So this Thunder Kikaku was meant to be a best weapon for Divine Prayer, okay, because it does 60% more lightning damage for 7 seconds. So obviously when you are going to use this, you are going to use this as a support weapon, okay, on Divine Prayer, because Divine Prayer herself is already provide 32% of more elemental damage plus 32 plus this 60% of more lightning damage, which is like 92% of lightning damage dealing for 7 seconds, which is a lot, okay. And there is this Jolnir, okay. Now this Jolnir, the problem with this weapon is even though it does lower the enemy's defense by 80%, it will only happen for 4 seconds. When you compare this, obviously this 4 second is actually extremely small time frame. So when you compare this Jolnir with this Twin of Eden, obviously Twin of Eden, even though it will not provide up to 80, okay, it will provide up to 65. At least the time frame is up to 9 seconds, okay. So obviously these are also a good alternative to the support characters, okay. Okay, so there is another weapon type that I must need to consider saying to you guys, okay. So first of all, let's get started. Okay, so there is this, go to this equipment section, go to this weapon and then click on forge, then click on this, okay. So basically speaking, at the beginning part, obviously you are not going to be able to get all of these three, because this takes a lot of crystals to actually get them, and the percentage of getting them is obviously extremely low. And here is the thing, that at the beginning part you might want to get a 5-star weapon, okay. Now the only three options which are available for you is these four, sorry, the only options which are available for you are these four. Now out of these four, this one is the only one which will do a lot of physical damage. uh, this one will do physical damage as well, and this one will do some fire damage, and this one will do even more fire damage when compared to this, okay. So these two are basically fire damage dealing, and these two are physical damage dealing, okay. But here is the thing, these are basic weapons, and obviously basic weapons are gonna be less powerful when compared to these pre-arms, okay. But at least getting this will help you in the long run, okay. And the amount of materials you need is gonna be extremely low, because these are something that it will take about uh, let's see, 3 to 4 weeks, let's say about 1 month, to get all of these anti-entropy imaginon core, up to 150 of them. It will take about 1 month, and after 1 month you should be able to have one of these, okay. But if you want to get a good one, try to get this one if you were to have Harsher of Flamington. But if you do not have Harsher of Flamington but other Kiana Kaslana character, then give them either of these. Now there is this spirit weapon. Do remember that this spirit weapon is turned into a hyper railgun, and this hyper railgun can be transformed into a positron blaster. Now this positron blaster is the second best weapon for Harsher of Flamington after this domain of incandescence. Not only that, this positron blasters is best for all of the Kiana Kaslana character except Harsher of the Void and Divine Prayer, okay. So these are basically the things that you must need to know when trying to get a weapon for Kiana Kaslana characters, okay. That this positron blaster is going to be very useful in the long run. Okay, now let's talk about the Stigmata set, okay. Now each character have their own special Stigmata set, okay. Now let me show you. So except all of these four, okay, these two have their own special Stigmata set. For example, this one has this Serene Ascendant set, okay. The Serene Ascendant has TMB. So out of those TMB, I only have these two, and I had to use some other methods or some other Stigmata set, okay. So this is the special set that is basically used for this character. And for this one, the best stigmata set for this one is the Himeko set. Okay, so this is Murata Himeko T, M, and B. Okay, now other than that, if you are thinking, okay, that those stigmata set are not gonna be available all of the time, so what can I do? The now it's similar to the options that I shown you regarding the weapon. I am gonna show you the alternative to those stigmata sets as well. So let's start with this fire stigmata set. Okay, now from the fire stigmata set, obviously at the beginning the only option which are going to be available for you is the basic stigmata set. Now from the basic stigmata set, I suggest that you try to get this Fufa musician set. Okay, because it is a multi-purpose set and you can use it on any characters and they will benefit from it. Now as you go to the higher ground, you will see that there is this Hikokumaru. Now this Hikokumaru set, try to have all three of them, because this is a G1 stigmata character. And the thing is, as you probably advance to more higher level, you will understand that this G1 Hikokumaru set will eventually be transformed into a Thales. Okay, and this Thales set can eventually be transformed into a Leuwenhoek set. Okay, now here's the thing: if you, let's say, want to go to this G3 stigmata set as soon as possible, then I highly suggest that you start with this G2 stigmata set. And once you have this G2 stigmata set, all of them, you can then go to this G3. Okay, now another thing is, this is a beginner's guide, so obviously I will not be able to provide all of the info on which one is the best and the second best or the third best. It is not possible because I am not a well player. Okay, a well player is basically a person who spends a lot of money to get a certain weapon, character, or stigmata set, which I cannot do. I am a free to play player, so based on that my knowledge is extremely lower in that category. But here's the thing: I have seen a chart where, if even if your Harsha of Flaminchian were to not have the Himeko set, at least if you were to have Leuwenhoek T and B with Thales M, okay, Thales in the middle category, then what will happen is your damage output is gonna be extremely high. Why is that? Because unlike Leuwenhoek M, who can only be triggered her higher damage dealing at ultimate evasion, this Thales M is, you will be able to do a lot of damage just by hitting on the enemy. So when compared with that, obviously Thales M is gonna be better than Leuwenhoek. Okay, because even at the Leuwenhoek this bonus set, you will see that the three set will provide damage reduction. Okay, and this one, this three set bonus, okay, this three set or three pieces bonus is basically provide some additional effect on Durandal. Okay, so obviously when regarding those type of things, this Thales M is gonna be better than Leuwenhoek M. Okay, so this is the for the Harsher of Flaminchian. Now what about the physical one? For the physical one, again at the beginning, go to this basic weapon, sorry, basic stigmata. For the basic stigmata, start with Marco Polo, because similar to the one which I just showed you, Fuhua musician set, which was a multi-purpose, Marco Polo is also a multi-purpose stigmata set. Okay, now once you go to the higher ground, you will see that there is a lot of options. Out of that option, I suggest that you try to collect this Ekaterina set. Okay, why is that? Because Ekaterina set will eventually turn into a Michelangelo set, and Michelangelo set will eventually turn into a direct set. Okay, which is G3, and this direct set will be again transformed into this Alicia set, which is G4. So obviously G4 is gonna be the strongest, but here's the thing: in case if you're wondering, okay, I want to try to get them as fast as possible, then do not get this Ekaterina, just go for this Michelangelo, and from Michelangelo try to get this direct, and from direct try to get this Alicia. Now some people will say, whoa, you are, what are you doing? You are misleading all of the other people. Bro, I'm not misleading anyone. Okay, this is a beginner's guide. So from that perspective, the first thing you have to understand that not everyone is capable of getting all of these ether fuel at the beginning stage as fast as possible. So sometimes they have to make compromises, and one of the compromises is to start with the lower category, because the lower category stuff are very easier to get when compared to these higher ones. Okay, so even though I am trying to get direct, okay, I only have one direct, and that is direct M. I do not have direct B or T, but I have been grinding for this stigmata for about 2 months. Okay, whereas for the other ones I had to grind for them only 1 month or less than 1 month to get them. So in that regard, for those of you who are new, I suggest that you start with Michelangelo, and once you start with Michelangelo, then get this direct, and once you have this direct, you can then go for this Alicia set. Now I have also seen many other people, what they do is they use 2 pieces of Dante and 1 pieces of direct, sorry, not one direct, 1 pieces of Alicia B. So they use direct T, M and Alicia B to get the maximum amount of damage. Now that is up to you on how you arrange your stigmata set. Okay, but this is the best option because these are free to play. Basically speaking, even without crystals, you are 100% guaranteed to get this. Okay, now let's talk about the elf set. Okay, so here is the thing. There are, as I've said, uh, physical Kiana and fire damage dealing Kiana. Okay, now for the physical, let's start with the fire damage dealing Kiana. Now for the fire damage dealing Kiana, if you, let's say, want to get a free, okay, uh, elf, then the best option is Jingo's Swing. But here is the thing, she is not gonna be that much good. Okay, she just provide healing and some support, but this support is not even considered as support. This support is considered as healing. That much of support she does. Okay, this is point number one. Now in case if you're wondering, okay, then which other elf character you want to get, we can do the maximum amount of damage dealing. Okay, then I suggest that you go for this Serene elf. Okay, now here's the thing, this Serene elf will provide fire support, will also heal your character, and will also provide shield breaking. Shield breaking will cause enemies to take more elemental or physical damage. So obviously in that regard, if you want to get the maximum amount of benefit from your Heart of Flamintion, then obviously getting this Serene set is gonna be far better than getting any of the other of this elf. Okay, now let's talk about this physical one. Now truth to be told, I do use her and I think she is actually extremely good. Okay, now why am I saying that? Because every time I use this elf ultimate, okay, what happens is about 30 to 60% of enemies shield gets defeated. I mean that much of damage she does to shield enemies in the game. Okay, but here is the thing, she has a limitation. If you want to get even more damage dealing, then I suggest that you go for this Stellasora. Now why is that? Because as you can probably see here, then these two are A rank, okay, and these others are S rank, so obviously their capabilities are gonna be a lot higher when compared to this A rank. So obviously getting this Stellasora is gonna be far better than when you are getting this blood embrace. But also at the same time, do remember that these two are free, you do not need to use any crystals to get them. So I highly suggest that if you are planning on getting a higher quality of elf, then try to get these for all of the physical Kiana, and try to get this one for the fire damage dealing Kiana. Okay, okay, so this is the end part of the video. Basically speaking, in this part I'm gonna talk about some other important things, and such as it is not actually possible for me to actually make a certain guide video and expect all of the people to come and watch the same video, because what happens is every time I upload a new video, this old video, what it happens, it gets lowered into the bottom. So eventually I realized, okay, in order to make sure that I need to do some sort of thing to make sure that every time a person were to come to my channel, I would suggest them to go to my other website, which I am making at the moment right now, so that you will be able to get more info out of what type of weapon, stigmata set and elf set you should be using to make sure that you are getting the maximum amount of benefit. Okay, so which is why I want some help from you guys. Okay, so basically what I do is I do streaming on a regular basis. So if you guys were to donate some amount of money, okay, it doesn't matter how much you do, at least if you were to donate some amount of money to those live stream, then what will happen is I will be able to make that website available. Now buying a domain and obviously running that website for a year is gonna be a huge task, and in order to get that task running, I need some help from you guys, and the more you guys were to help me regarding this website making, the far easier it will become for me and for you guys to understand what type of materials you should be getting in these games. Okay, so anyway, if you like this gameplay guide, then please give a like and subscribe and click the bell notification icons in order to get more of this type of content on a regular basis. Okay, thank you.